Welcome to the gathering, and thank you for joining us. As you know, if you've been watching the gathering, this was a program designed to interview pastors and ministers in the region and leaders as well, and to give you an opportunity to get to know them and see what God is saying in the earth, what God is doing in the lives of our leaders and our pastors in the region. And I want to ask you a question. Did you know that government officials or civil government leaders are actually servants of God and ministers? I want to read Romans 13 to you, just to show you that that's what God calls them. It says, "Let every person be loyally subject to the governing civil authorities, for there's no authority except from God, by his permission and his sanction, and those that exist do so by God's appointment." And so civil authorities, God calls them his ministers, actually, and ministers for good. And I'm excited today to have with us in the studio Mayor Scott Cosper of Killeen, Texas.
Robin, it's an honor to be here with you today, and we couldn't be happier to be a part of the show, and we're grateful for all the wonderful things that KPLE is doing out in television land and carrying the Lord's message to the people, that many of who need it so badly. And those of us that are already Christians, you know, we get to watch great programming and learn from that, and I think that it's just wonderful all the way around, and we're grateful for what you're doing and for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you today.
Well, really, it's our privilege, and I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're very busy. I know in one of our previous conversations you shared that you were really well aware of all that Catherine Mason and KPLE had done to serve the region, and I'm, you know, just stepping in now really for Catherine just for these past few months, but I worked here before, and KPLE, God has used it to minister the Word of God, of course, but also to support places like the food centers, the shelters, the free clinic. We're, you know, an entity that has access to the airwaves that can get the message of what's available to help the people in the region. And you and I were talking about that, you know, a while ago. So thanks for taking the time to be here. You were recently here. We had a luncheon just a week or so ago, Traffic 911, and many police departments were represented, school was represented, the ISDs, many agencies that deal with the problem of human trafficking. And I appreciated you being here, and also the Mayor of Coppers Cove was here. So we appreciate you serving in the office of mayor for the city of Killeen. And one of the things that really, it's a scripture that I've shared every time we've opened this program, and I wanted to share it again because it's so meaningful to me, and I think to everyone that hears it. Acts 17:26 and 27 says that God has determined our time, the time we're here on earth, not just our time, but our geographical location. And that just blesses me to know that, you know, before I was ever born, he knew I'd be in Killeen, Texas, and he knew you would be in Killeen, Texas. And somehow that gives a security, and also causes us, it says in that scripture, that the purpose of that would be that we would seek the Lord in hope that we might find him, though he be not far from us. So he's put us here for a purpose. And I know that you're walking out the purposes of God for your life as Mayor of Killeen.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Thank you.
So share with the audience maybe a little bit about yourself before you served as mayor, and then the process of how you came to choose to run for public office.
Okay. Well, I am a sixth-generation Texan. I've lived in Bell County all of my life. I am a custom home builder and a very small residential developer. So that's what we do for a living. I've been in the construction business all of my life, and married to a beautiful wife, Christy Cosper. She's a educator here at KSD. She teaches high school seniors and has a great rapport with those students, and many of them that she has taught previously, they come back and talk about what an impact she's had on her life. So, you know, I think that's her ministry as well.
It is.
And, you know, I think that whatever any of us do, if we do it for the Lord and do it for the right reasons, I think it is a ministry, and we have the ability to show those values that we learn as Christians. Additionally, I served 9 years on the City Council. In the last 3 of those, I was Mayor Pro Tem. And currently, I'm serving as the Mayor of Killeen. I'm in my 2nd year. I will be finishing up my first term later this year in the end of May. And so we're just excited about what God's doing in the Central Texas area and what they're allowing Killeen to be a part of. You know, our area is such a dynamic area, and we have been blessed with tremendous amount of growth. Obviously, we've got Fort Hood, which is the largest single-site employer in the state. But more importantly than that, the economic benefit and the large employer is the people that they bring here. You know, many of our soldiers are some of the greatest Americans that you would ever want to meet, and they've served so selflessly and make a difference, protecting not only our country and our people, but the interest of our country abroad. And so it's an honor to be able to work with the leadership at Fort Hood and interact with those people that are doing the heavy lifting all over the world to make sure that freedom is protected. So we've had a lot going on in the city of Killeen over the last, I guess 16 years, and it's been an honor to be a part of so many different projects and initiatives that we have had moving forward. And so I consider it a blessing that the citizens of Killeen have allowed me this opportunity to serve in this capacity, and so I'm just really blessed.
Well, we moved back into the Killeen area for the 3rd time. We served 21 and a half years in the military. My husband did. I say we because it is a family thing. And we came back in 1994, lived in Copper's Cove, and then built a home a few years ago in Killeen. And the population, I think when we came back, was, at least on the signs, 87,000. And we are at what now?
The last census count the decade count was 2010. We were at 137,000. We have grown several thousand from there. We are probably quickly approaching 140,000 currently. And that is just evidence of more growth, and people appreciate the quality of life and the environment, the affordability.
It is. The cost of living here is you know, much better than some other places, even close in like Georgetown and some of the other surrounding areas. I didn't realize, I guess you'd served on city council for 6 years, so in the course of all of those years, and probably just being a citizen that would be aware of what's going on in Killeen, what were some of the things that you can see? Yes, we've had great population growth, and with that comes a lot of need for infrastructure changes, and that's been something that I can say I share with my children because they lived here and have been away for a while, that you wouldn't recognize Killeen if you came. So share some of the things that in your time period of public service you've seen take place.
Oh, sure. I could talk all day about the needs that have arrived and what we have done to address those. One thing that comes to mind is the transportation projects that have occurred here in the area. I serve on the TxDOT Policy Board. It's called KTUTS, and what that is a regional board that works together to prioritize regional projects and then appropriates funding to fund those projects. And we have a short-range, mid-range, and long-range plans, and those are constantly moving targets because the entire region's growing, not just the Killeen area, and so the needs have been phenomenal. But if you'll remember, when you moved here, Highway 195 going to Florence and on to I-35, it was just a 2-lane road with a yellow stripe dividing the 2 lanes, and it was very heavily traveled. There was a lot of accidents. And,
yes, it was. It had a very bad reputation.
It did.
I think in '91 and '92 it made Newsweek as called the Highway of Death, I believe.
It did.
Highest per capita automobile accident deaths took place, and I know that that's been reversed.
Yes, absolutely. And as a result of that, you know, community leaders got together, and Fort Hood leadership also, and said we have to do better than this. And so we took that initiative to Austin and expressed our concerns about, you know, the road is dangerous, it's not well lit, there's added capacity, we need to have added capacity. Fort Hood expressed its concerns about young soldiers driving on the road late at night, and as a result of that, we worked with, here regionally, with the KTUTS group, K-Tempo now is what it's called, and the folks in Austin to bring over $150 million to our area to improve that corridor. And now as you drive it, you would never know that it looked like that previously. It's a divided highway, 2 lanes in each direction, has grade separations at major intersections. And so that has been a huge improvement for our area.
Yeah, we live out on that road, and
Okay.
you know, we were aware that part of the reason that the numbers were so high in deaths was because the soldiers do go to Austin, you know, on the weekend, and coming back late at night, sometimes drinking, not always, but that was a big part of the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that part of that was attributed to that we were a smaller community at that time, and we didn't have as much to offer to people.
It's
so
true.
they were going to the larger areas looking for entertainment opportunities and such as that. But additionally, another project or a corridor that we worked on was the Highway 190 corridor. If you'll remember, wasn't very many years ago that there would be traffic stacked up every morning trying to get on post, and every evening trying to get off a post, because it just simply couldn't handle the capacity that we had. And we worked with then the 3 Corps commander was General Odierno, and he expressed that we needed to work on some improvements there. And again, the group collectively went to Austin and expressed our concerns with the commissioners at the TxDOT Commissioners Court, and they heard our message, and they understood that, you know, we're concerned about providing the best access and the best quality of life that we can to Fort Hood, and Fort Hood is the largest single-site employer in the state. It's also a $25 billion annual impact here locally, and so it was the right thing for us to do, to prioritize those funds to improve US 190. And as you see it now, the main gate has had tremendous improvements that have helped folks get on and off. Additionally, we were able to get access control points at Fort Hood Street and Rancier. Also, 79th Street was improved. And there was some other improvements in Copper's Cove on 116 that came in. And so we continue to try to provide the best access we can. And moving easterly towards Harker Heights, we've widened to 6 lanes, 3 in each direction, and getting ready to vote on another phase that will take it all the way through Harker Heights to 6 lanes. And most recently, some very exciting news that we received from Senator Cornyn's office, and also Congressman Williams worked very hard to help us get language in the transportation bill that the President recently signed into law, designating US 190 as an Interstate 14 corridor.
Yes, I heard that.
And that's going to provide a lot of opportunity for us. It'll create new pools of money that we will be able to get funding to do improvements along the corridor, but it'll also have an economic development impact. As that road becomes an interstate and has that designation, it will help us to be more competitive as we reach out to large businesses and corporations trying to get them into the area.
A lot of businesses won't come in unless it's an interstate.
Yeah. So, but you know, that's just a little bit of our infrastructure. We're adding water capacity at our water plants.
I think that's one of the issues that we're going to deal with. The aquifers and water supply is going to be one of the major issues that we deal with in the next decades. Share a little bit about what's going on with underground water and.
Well, certainly we have two large pools of water on surface with Belton and Stillhouse Lakes, and those are we're very blessed to have those in our area, and we have allocated water that will take us decades into the future from the surface water. The city of Killeen and Fort Hood get all of their water from surface water.
Okay.
And we have allocated and projected water that's available for us to take us well into the future to 2050, I believe, is the timeline. And so we need to be good stewards of that water. We need to conserve where we can. One of the initiatives that the City of Killeen implemented this year, or in 2015, is a water reuse program. And what that is it takes the effluent water out of our sewer plant and makes it available for irrigation purposes for large areas that have the need for large quantities of water. The golf course is the first user of that water, and that frees up, when it's fully implemented, it will free up enough water to serve 1,200 homes in the city of Killeen. And so that's added capacity on top of what we've already planned well for and have in our projected raw water availability. But also, you know, we do have our aquifers in the area, and we have clear water, underground water, which Dirk Aaron runs that. And I had a meeting with him just last week. We met for 3 hours one morning to talk about the pools of water, the people that are drawing into those, and how we can conserve the water. And you know, we all praise God for the rain that we received last year, because we were getting in very critical, a very critical place with the levels of the aquifer and the lakes, for that matter. And then here came the rain, and it continued, and so we're getting in a lot better shape than we were this time last year. But certainly, going forward, we need to be cognizant of the growth and the continuing or increasing demands on all of those pools of water, underground and surface, and we need to do the best we can to promote conservation at our homes, at our businesses, and certainly at our governmental facilities as well. And I think with good planning, we will be able to be in good shape going forward.
Yeah, you know, I don't think many of us, myself included, really understand the depth of planning, preparation that goes into city government, local government, and keeping citizens safe. The things that we take for granted, lots of times water, we don't really realize how much planning has to go into that in roads. And you know, it's not a lot of fun during the construction phase, but it is wonderful once the connections are made. All the connections of the bypasses and over in Copper's Cove, as you can go into Lampasas, it's just amazing. And as you're going toward Georgetown now, Ronald Reagan Boulevard, so many of those, of course, Florence has been bypassed, but I mean, the roads are gorgeous. I don't think people who live in other states that have lived here always have any idea how blessed Texas is with their infrastructure. I just visited New York, upstate New York, for a couple of weeks over Christmas, and they pay state taxes, and their roads are in such desperate need of repair. Of course, a lot of the money goes into New York City to take care of New York City because it's vast, but we're always amazed when we come back at how blessed we are in the highways, and so we appreciate all that, you know, all the thought and the pre-planning, just being so cognizant of 10 years and 20 years down the road that goes into serving in city government. One of the other things that I think I've seen a great improvement in since I've been here is even the numbers of police officers we have, salaries for police officers, public safety. Can you share a little bit about some of the things that have gone on?
Well, you're exactly right as you're talking about all the planning that goes into making a city function the way that it should.
It's unbelievable.
You know, we've got master plans. We look at them each year, and we look at what the different trends are, where the growth patterns are happening at, and we update them every couple of years to make sure that they are a good living document that's useful. And part of that planning has other benefits. For example, our water system, within our water and sewer master plans, we have developed main lines that are in the right locations to provide not only connectivity but also looping, where you can get water from multiple directions that creates adequate pressure and capacity even under a heavy usage. And as a result of that, and the planning that we do within, tying into your comment about our first responders with the fire department. Last year we were given an ISO rating, which is the way the insurance companies rate us, of 1. We are one of 111 cities in the nation that has that rating. And what that means is that we have not only an incredible fire department that has good resources with their equipment, their trucks, their ambulances, and response times, well-trained, well-certified staff, but it also means that the water storage in our elevated tanks and our ground storage tanks with the pumping capabilities, as well as having large distribution lines in the right place to create a actual distribution system that functions in a way that is recognized by the insurance companies as premium. As a result of that, everyone should get a significant discount on their fire insurance this year.
And that's what good city planning does for residents.
And it is.
It eases our lives,
yes.
but also brings down
yes.
the cost of living in ways that we don't even think
yes.
about.
We just broke ground on fire station number 9. That will be our second dual battalion fire station, which means that it will be able to respond to multiple events at one time. Instead of just a truck, a brush truck, and an ambulance, it will have a ladder, a truck, an ambulance, a brush truck, and a rescue all in one building. And it's been built out in the southwest portion of town, near the airport, near the university, near Metroplex Hospital, and so it will serve the citizens very well, and we're proud of that. Congressman Carter worked tirelessly to get us a grant that will pay for 37 firefighters, which will fully staff that fire station for the first 3 years. And we've made it a priority in the application process to try to entice veterans that have retired from the military to look for a career with the city and to serve in some of those slots in the fire department. Additionally, our police department, over the last 16 years that I've been here, we have increased staffing by well over 100 positions. And so we are at about 276, I believe, is where we are today in authorized positions. So we have come a long way in trying to get staffing to a place where it can accommodate the workload that those folks are having, as well as the growth that we're having. And so there's a lot of moving parts in keeping a city moving and growing, and all of that comes at a cost. And so we have to be very frugal with our budgeting. We have to watch what we're doing and stage new programs, pay raises, capital investments. All of that has to be staged in such a way that we don't overburden the budget in any one year. And so there's a lot of needs out there, and we do our best to prioritize what are those that should be addressed first. And public safety always rises to the top as a top priority. In fact, that is our biggest priority whenever we start the budget process. And not to say that all the other things are not just as important, because any one part of our city is, we have to have our solid waste, we have to have water in our pipes, and certainly in our fire hydrants when the firefighters hook onto them. But we need to have good roads. There's lots of needs out there, but we try to prioritize those and do the best we can.
It's looking good, I think, for Killeen, from just the changes since 1994. I'm going to scoot us in. We've got about 5 minutes left to talk about the fact that you are now running for Congress.
Yes, ma'am.
District 54. Am I right in saying it's Jimmy Don? Is Jimmy Don's old seat?
Yes, Jimmy Don Aycock.
Aycock's old seat. That's what I thought. And I can hear in your voice the pride about the city of Killeen and the passion that you've had for Killeen. Was it difficult to make a decision to move to state level government from local level government? Yes,
it was very difficult to make that decision. And before I get into that, I want to say Mr. Aycock served 10 years in the legislature. He, as he's retiring next year, he is the chairman of public education, and he has worked tirelessly to move our community and his district forward. He has been a godsend to our community. Hate to see him leave, but my goodness, what an incredible man. As the mayor of Killeen, obviously I am very proud of the opportunity that I've had to serve the citizens, work with our staff. I think we've got the best staff in the world. Our people are dedicated to providing the best service every day to everyone, and in fact, that's their mission statement. But as I have served over the last 16 years as either a council member or as mayor, I've had the opportunity to work on many regional projects like the joint use airport, that brought jet service to the Central Texas area when we were facing losing air service altogether at Killeen Municipal because the airlines were transitioning into a jet fleet and our runway would not accommodate that. And Fort Hood so graciously worked with us and partnered with us to make their airfield available. And then we literally took an act of Congress to acquire that designation as a regional airport, and then we worked with the FAA in both Fort Worth and in Washington to get those funds.
Even the things that you shared earlier about Congressman Carter getting involved are indicators to me that for things that need to continue in Killeen, we need a voice in Austin.
Yes.
And in the last couple of minutes, share a little bit about what you feel, because we are short on time.
In my time, I've worked on numerous regional projects. I mentioned the TxDOT committee. I've chaired that 3 different times. The airport, working with Fort Hood, which is the largest employer. That's the same issues. We talked about water and infrastructure. It's the same issues that the legislators in Austin are dealing with. They're dealing with jobs, a strong economy, budget constraints. They're dealing with infrastructure, and they're dealing with safety issues. All of those are issues that I'm familiar with as a community leader that's worked with the people, you know, here at a local level. And I believe that that is what gives me, that experience is what gives me the ability to be able to seamlessly move from this position into the Capitol as the representative for District 54. And certainly I would never say that I could fill Mr. Aycock's shoes, because that is an incredible man with incredible experience. But I can go to him and learn from him and have him help me as we go forward. But there is no doubt that the experience I've gained here locally is so valuable and will bode well working with other legislators, having to prioritize projects, having to build consensuses. And I am very, very excited that God has opened this door and given me the opportunity to be able to run for this office, hopefully be elected, and serve the same citizens here in Central Texas, just in a different capacity.
That's amazing. Well, I appreciate all that you've done for the city of Killeen, and you know, I can see the connection, as I said, between the way local government connects with state government, and just looking forward to seeing what God does with your life. Thank you for serving the city of Killeen, and you know, we will be praying for you if God chooses to put you in office in Austin and to serve in the Congress. So thank you for being here today, and thank you for watching us today on The Gathering.